Sometimes in life, we all keep waiting for a moment that never comes, thinking that one day the perfect inspiration will arrive, one day clarity will fall from the sky, one day the right mood will bless us, one day we will transform, one day we will rise, and one day we will become everything we dream of becoming. And in that long, invisible waiting, life quietly slips through our fingers. The Bhagavad Gita calls this the greatest illusion, the illusion that change will happen someday instead of today. When Arjuna stood in the middle of the battlefield, trembling with doubt, shaking with fear, drowning in confusion, Krishna did not give him a long lecture on destiny. Krishna gave him a truth that can awaken any soul. Act now, for the present moment is the only moment where life is real. And this becomes the foundation for the first life-changing lesson of the Gita, that action taken now is infinitely more powerful than 1,000 intentions saved for later. The Gita teaches us that knowledge without action is like a lamp without a flame, a sword without a warrior, a field without seeds. We all say we want to change, we want to grow, we want to succeed, but when the moment of action arrives, the mind whispers, "Not now, later." And this whisper is more dangerous than any enemy outside us, because it slowly convinces us that postponing is harmless, even wise, and eventually we lose the fire that once burned inside us. Krishna tells Arjuna, and through him, the entire world, that the mind is a restless force, a trickster, a master of excuses. And unless a person learns to discipline the mind through purposeful action, the mind becomes a prison. This is why the Gita repeatedly reminds us that our real battle is not with the world, but with our own inner hesitation, inner fear, and inner delay. When Arjuna hesitated, Krishna didn't ask him to wait for courage. Krishna asked him to move, because courage is born through movement, not meditation. Every person who has ever succeeded in anything did so not because they had no fear, but because they acted while fear was still present. The Gita teaches that fear is not a barrier, inaction is. And this gives rise to the second great lesson. You are only entitled to your actions, never to the fruits of those actions. The Gita says that the moment you focus on outcomes, you lose the purity of your effort, because fear of failure or excitement of success begins to control your mind. But when you focus only on action, without obsessing over the result, you become unstoppable. Why? Because then your mind becomes silent, your heart becomes steady, and your energy becomes complete. Krishna explains that results are never in your hands. They are shaped by countless factors: time, destiny, environment, the actions of others, and divine order. But your actions, your effort, your discipline, your daily commitment, those belong entirely to you. And when a person gives their full heart to the present moment's duty, the universe itself reshapes their path. The third lesson flowing from this truth is that self-discipline is the foundation of freedom. Most people think discipline restricts life, but the Gita says the opposite. A person without discipline is controlled by their impulses, moods, fears, and cravings. They may feel free, but they are slaves to their own emotions. But a person with discipline can shape their own destiny because they no longer act out of weakness. They act out of clarity. Krishna tells Arjuna that the person who conquers the mind becomes their own best friend, but the one who fails to conquer it becomes their own worst enemy. And the mind is conquered not in great heroic battles, but in small daily choices: waking up on time, choosing progress over comfort, choosing honesty over convenience, choosing effort over excuses. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is remembering who you are and who you can become. And with that awareness, the Gita leads us to the fourth great lesson, that detachment is not about running away from life. It is about playing your role with full intensity without allowing your identity to be swallowed by outcomes. Arjuna first wanted to run away from the battlefield because he thought spirituality meant withdrawal, but Krishna shattered this illusion. Krishna said true wisdom is not in escaping life's responsibilities, but in embracing them with a pure heart, without attachment, without ego, without fear. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you care without losing yourself. It means you give your best without being destroyed by success or broken by failure. It means you love without possession, you fight without hatred, you serve without pride, and you live without anxiety. Most of our suffering does not come from doing our duty. It comes from the weight of expectation tied to that duty. When we detach from the outcome and immerse ourselves fully in the action, a certain lightness enters our soul, a freedom begins to flow, and life becomes peaceful, even in chaos. From this rises the fifth profound lesson, that the self is eternal. The body changes, but the soul does not. Krishna reminds Arjuna that fear is born from false identification with temporary things. We fear loss because we think what we have defines who we are. But the Gita says, you are not the body, not the name, not the status, not the identity you inherited. You are the eternal soul that witnesses all experiences. When you remember that the soul cannot be harmed by fire, wind, water, or weapons, you stop living like a fragile creature and start living like a powerful being. This understanding dissolves fear, because fear belongs to the temporary self, not the eternal self. The sixth life-changing lesson emerges from this truth, that desire is endless, and unless you learn to manage it, desire will control your life. Krishna says desire is like fire. The more you feed it, the more it grows. People think they will be satisfied after achieving one goal, one pleasure, one dream, one milestone. But the moment they reach it, the mind creates a new desire. The Gita teaches that happiness doesn't come from fulfilling desires. It comes from reducing their control over you. A mind driven by desires never rests, never becomes satisfied, never finds peace. But a mind guided by purpose becomes calm, focused, and productive. When Arjuna asked how to calm the mind, Krishna said that control comes through practice and detachment. Practice brings strength, and detachment brings peace. This leads to the seventh transformational lesson, that your purpose is your anchor. Without purpose, the mind becomes like a ship tossed by storms, moving from distraction to distraction, from pleasure to pleasure, from thought to thought. But when a person discovers their dharma, their true inner duty, life becomes meaningful. Krishna tells Arjuna that nothing is more sacred than fulfilling your unique calling in this world. Even if your path is difficult, walk it, because walking your own difficult path is far superior to living an easy life on someone else's path. Your purpose makes you strong. It lifts you during challenges. It gives you power during fear, and it keeps your soul alive even when your body is tired. And this purpose leads us to the eighth lesson, that change is the law of existence, and resisting change is the root of suffering. Krishna tells Arjuna that everything changes. The body changes, circumstances change, relationships change, seasons change, fortunes change, emotions change. The only thing that remains constant is the soul. When you fight change, you break. When you accept change, you grow. When you flow with change, you rise. When you master change, you become unshakable. The Gita teaches that wise people do not cry over what changes. They learn, they adapt, they move, they transform. And from this arises the ninth lesson, that service purifies the heart. Krishna teaches that when a person acts only for themselves, their world becomes small. But when they act for the welfare of others, their world becomes infinite. Service removes ego, it removes loneliness, it removes fear, it removes selfishness. It opens the heart, deepens compassion, and connects you to the divine. And finally, the 10th great lesson of the Gita, surrender. Not surrender as weakness, but surrender as trust. The trust that you are guided, protected, and supported by a higher intelligence. When you shift from anxiety to trust, your actions become fearless, your heart becomes peaceful, and your mind becomes clear. Krishna tells Arjuna that when you surrender to the divine with honesty and humility, the universe itself rearranges circumstances for your growth. And when all these 10 lessons come together, action, detachment, discipline, purpose, acceptance, service, self-realization, surrender, you become unstoppable because you stop living as a frightened mind and start living as an awakened soul. And as you listen to these eternal truths, if a part of you feels awakened, inspired, or transformed, then let that spark grow. Let it guide your actions, your decisions, your discipline. If this wisdom touches your heart, make sure you subscribe to Krishn Marg, because this journey of inner awakening is only beginning, and together we will walk deeper and deeper into the ocean of divine wisdom.